Okay, before I get back to another old school style video, I did promise to set up another website on which I will be selling digital products because basically I have to make a living too. You know what I mean? Alright, so that's just the way it is. I'm not going to give you the website yet until I've got more digital products up there. I've done one series, a course on doing tarot professionally, and you know the whole like intuitive aspects and all that kind of stuff, which is up there on that one particular course. And I'm going to do more video courses, as I'm sure you may remember from my earlier videos. I used to have a couple of lights actually like G-clamped to my desk so you could see my face really clearly. Bam, you know, halogen light blaring in my face. I don't have them here anymore because they're set up over there, which is what I'm using as the studio area for that particular product. When I've got a bit more up there, okay, things that are actually worthwhile selling and talking about and the rest of it, then I'll be directing you all to that particular website. But not just yet. But let's go back to, you know, what I'm doing this video about. Obviously this is a YouTube video. On YouTube we do videos in a certain style, in a certain way, which is often interacting with or commenting upon something we've seen out there on the internet. In my particular case, I get wonderful things appearing in my comment section. Wonderful things, okay? But remember where I got a lot of my ideas from, alright? Namely, I started from the 101 of traditional good quality occult ideas from, you know, the founding fathers, so to speak, of Alphonse Louis Constant, Eliphas Levi, Transcendental Magic. And in the early chapters of that book, he mentioned a distinction between belief and knowledge, alright? He said that if you knew something, you would no longer need to believe. Alright, or words to that effect. So even Alphonse Louis Constant, who made a few logical mistakes in some of his writings, did actually have a good basic understanding of the distinction between belief and knowledge. Alright, this is an occultist. This is a guy who did like all of his weird circle casting with all Kabbalistic prayers and the rest of it, and candles on lamps, and attempting to do scrying in weird and wonderful ways, and summoning up spirits of what's ancient Greek deities and that sort of stuff. Alright? So, but this guy could distinguish between the two. And that point of the distinction between belief and knowledge is very, very important to understand prior to having a look at this one particular comment and what this one particular commenter said. Let's just go into it bit by bit, just like nice and friendly to start off with before, you know, the caffeine and nicotine finally builds up to a crescendo inside my brain and out comes fire. Arr. Here we go. It says, I have a question. Why don't you believe in Ouija boards, spirit boards, but you do tarot and other kinds of phony things? Have you ever considered studying some sort of empirical science? I mean, tarot seems bullshit. Well, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you can probably spot a few of the difficulties with this one particular commenter and where they're coming from. Let's start with the subject of empirical science and have I actually studied any? Well, there was the 2 years worth of counseling theory and practice, including some of the classical psychological theorists, which I studied during that time. I then did my degree in sociology and psychology, and after that I did 1 year's worth full-time of Open University Natural Science and Neuroscience. And following that I did a couple of years worth of accountancy postgraduate courses. So as far as do I actually have some basic background of natural science behind me, and of course natural science thinking, and thinking in terms of the scientific methodology, the short answer there would have to be a bit of an emphatic yes, in big red letters and in capitals, possibly underlined 3 times, kind of like floating in the air somewhere. Right, but now let's go back to the beginning of, or the earlier stages of this one particular marvellous comment. And think, with a capital K at the end and a capital T at the beginning, also in massive red letters with 3 red lines floating underneath, possibly with half a dozen exclamation marks after the word. I just thought I'd explain what that, you know, visual image would be, just so that you could visualize it yourself without me having to do some kind of like spending hours do groovy 3D graphics, or just going onto a you know, a website that sells royalty-free images and lacing that into the video, because I thought I'd let your mind and your imagination finally do the work so that I don't actually have to. The caffeine and nicotine's building up to a crescendo. You can tell. Right, now, of course, calm down, Nick. Be at peace, one with the world and universe and all that kind of bollocks. Okay, I have a question. Why don't you believe in Ouija boards, spirit boards? well, the very inclusion of the word belief there signifies lack of knowledge, not necessarily a position of knowledge. Alright, lack of knowledge, but having a opinion which may be either strongly or weakly held or somewhere in between. Or it may just be a kind of opinion, like a loosely constructed opinion which isn't necessarily glued hard and fast together based upon experience. Well, what do we actually know? Let's have a look at that. Well, of course, we've got the ideomotor effect, which is a natural science phenomenon which has about 150 years worth of history behind it, and it is, so it seems, like a known phenomena. Now, if there is any kind of natural science phenomena which is interesting, weird, wonderful, spooky, has great effects associated with it, there's lots of mystery associated with it, but it's a known scientific, natural science phenomena which you yourself can experience with some basic rudimentary tools, and you can do it at home. Would you be interested in giving it a go? Would you be interested in learning the skills of how to actually utilize the ideomotor effect in this particular case? Of course you would. So essentially we can use the known and say, yes, I know that the ideomotor effect is most likely the thing which actually makes this whole particular weird and wonderful experience actually happen. Yes, so therefore, for a laugh, for fun, for interest, for curiosity, for intrigue, I'm going to experience it because it's going to be fun. Yes. Oh. Yes, it's going to be fun. Yes. But what about the belief aspect? Alright, if you've got a belief, you've probably got a belief in something which is not necessarily fact or not necessarily totally 100% known. It is not empirical. It is not totally clear-cut. Alright, so to have a belief in the Ouija board, which would mean to presuppose that you are of the opinion that some things are true but aren't necessarily proven. Alright, well, I might have some beliefs, or I might not. They can be on any aspect of a scale between very strong to very weak, or considered to be fact despite the fact that they are just beliefs, or whatever. Alright, but the fact of the matter is, the belief itself would have to be connected to something highly theological, or highly mythologically driven, or mythologically connected. And so therefore you wouldn't necessarily be believing in the board, you wouldn't be believing, in inverted commas, in the ideomotor effects, you would be believing in a certain form of spirituality, a certain form of mythology, a certain form of interpretation of the way that the world might work. Okay? The way the world might work, rather than necessarily the way it actually works. This is the whole fucking distinction. Alright? So, even if I do have some beliefs in spirits, angels, whatever, it doesn't matter, okay? Even if I do have those beliefs, they are beliefs. One has to be able to separate between belief and knowledge. If you believe something, you don't know it to be a fact. If you know it to be a fact, it's not belief. It can be an opinion, but it's not necessarily belief. I know this camera in front of me is real. It is solid. It is physical. It has batteries in it, which I have had to recharge and put into the camera itself prior to turning it on so that I can actually talk to you. And you can listen to me ranting and raving in a slightly maniacal, rather intense manner about a subject which I feel rather passionate about. Namely, thinking intelligently about strange phenomena. Okay? That's it. That's realistically all we're talking about here. Trying to apply our brains, turning our brains on, utilizing frontal lobes, that sort of like, bit of the front with your reasoning, rational, logical mind into the situation or the experiences or the, weird science or whatever the fuck you want to call it, which is associated with things like pendulum dowsing, whatever, whatever. Or spirit boards, Ouija boards, essentially ideomotor effect based devices. Okay? Applying the brain. So essentially having a belief is an irrelevance. You can have all kinds of weird and wonderful fucked up beliefs. And coming onto the internet and saying, well, I believe this, doesn't necessarily help anyone because all you're doing is creating a new religion, right? So what's the point in doing that when there's millions of the bastards out there already? And essentially if you are going to go to somebody who's got their own personal beliefs and religion and all the rest of that, about the Ouija board, about circle casting, about the rest of that, all you're going to be doing is learning their beliefs. Which is not fact, which is not knowledge. Which is, therefore, an intellectually flawed way of looking at the world. It is wrong, actually wrong, to go to someone and say, well, what is your belief? And then trying to absorb their beliefs and turn that into your interpretation of the way the world works. It's wrong. It's actually wrong, intellectually. It's peculiar. But we do it. We humans do it because we're, we're quite pathetic and superstitious. I mean, just as humans, we are slightly prone to that way of thinking. It's wrong, but we've got like education. You can go to school these days. Yes. You can learn the basics of scientific thought through going to school. I carry on saying it. Middle school, science class. Please go back to it, Mr. or Mrs. Commenter. Alright? And just fucking remember what it was you were taught about how we build up an understanding of knowledge as opposed to belief. And then it says, but you do tarot and other kinds of phony things. Well, is tarot phony? Is tarot phony? Come on, just think about it. What the fuck is tarot? Tarot is a pack of cards, okay? And I've got a couple of them here. Isn't that wonderful? It's actually a game-playing pack, because playing the game tarot is quite good fun. We got the Oswald Worth in a rather tacky box. We got the Golden Dawn. Yeah, it's a pack of cards which people have used to try and build up understandings of the way the world may or may not work. And it's also been used in religious instruction. The earlier forms of tarot pack were essentially Catholic images. It was a way of explaining things from the church. So essentially the history of tarot is much more complex than just saying, oh, tarot is crap, tarot is crap, tarot is crap. And on top of that, I sell what I do as an entertainment service, but I also tell people it can have a therapeutic benefit because, funnily enough, it can have a therapeutic benefit. And if you're intelligent enough, like I am, you can turn the experience of a tarot reading into something which can actually try and help somebody to get over an issue with a bad relationship, to be motivated so they can go out there and search for that job. And often, you know, it is the fact that these people have come to me that they've been able to sort out these hard issues in like their relationship life, their financial life, their working lives, their social lives, their dealing and understanding with their friends and their family. So essentially it is a useful service, but one which is culturally distinct from counselling therapy, in which the counsellor's main job is to sit down and go, and then just mirroring back what the person getting the counselling is saying to give them an opportunity to contemplate on their own rights. Instead, I use my wisdom and I instruct people. Alright? And I portray it through a certain medium in a certain way which is culturally acceptable for the entertainment medium at hand. So it's not a phony thing. It is in fact something which can be very beneficial to people if put in the hands of someone who is intelligent and ethical. Okay? Find your inner calm, Nick. Find your inner calm. Oh dear, oh fucking dear. Oh shit. I mean, tarot seems bullshit. Well, now I hope I've explained to you why tarot isn't bullshit. And I've told you, I hope, why the ideomotor effect is important and why we should explore it and why we as individuals, even you like you atheists out there, you skeptical people, all right, the ideomotor effect is a natural science phenomena, okay? Therefore you can experience it. You can experience gravity, you can experience the roll of a dice, you can experience the power of flight through making a paper aeroplane. I mean, saying that like the ideomotor effect is some kind of like a really, really bad thing. It's like saying that the power of flight through, you know, making a paper aeroplane is a really, really bad thing. It's a natural science phenomena. It is curious and it's fun. Alright? So everybody get out there and make a fucking Ouija board. It is so cool to play with.